This chapter in your book became out of date in January of 2019, and I think you know why if you know what an emerging disease is. Emerging infectious diseases are diseases that are newly identified within a population that have existed but have changed, can be caused by viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoan, or helminths. A reemerging disease is an older disease that was under control but is coming back, like tuberculosis. Factors of emergence or reemergence of diseases: human demographics and behavior, the migration due to war. This was what no doubt spread the Spanish flu back 100 years ago in World War I. They say that more people died of the flu than they actually died of fighting in the war. And that was just an awful war. I mean, hand-to-hand combat in trenches and ditches, and just, an awful thing. And I know it's a wonder that I'm here, since my grandfather fought in World War I. He was actually a courier pilot and was shot down 3 times, and how he lived, who knows. Economic conditions: poverty is causing a problem, urbanization, people crowding, and then older people are going to be more susceptible. So as we live longer, we're more susceptible to diseases. Also, ecological changes and agricultural development. The better our agriculture becomes. The more food we produce, the more people can live. That brings about economic development, changes land use, and people tend to crowd together into cities. International travelers, both travelers and then food, exotic foods brought from country to country. Technology and industry, huge amounts of things are brought into the country with the potential for having microbes on them. Animal feed ingredients. No doubt the epidemic of mad cow disease would never have happened were it not for people feeding cattle sheep brains. You don't feed cows sheep brains because sheep carry scrapie, and it turned into the actually new variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob, which was transmissible to humans. Microbial adaptation and change. Microbes constantly evolve and adapt to their environment. And as far as bacteria, we have drug resistance, and antivirals. We're so new with those, but though we do get drug resistance on those. If you don't have good public health measures, that's a real problem. And inadequate vaccination programs. Developing countries, it's not a matter of they don't have vaccines to help little children. It's a matter of getting the vaccines to these little children. There can be war, there can be terrorists. I mean, a whole lot of the world live a whole lot more, through a whole lot more hardship than we do. Human susceptibility to infection, poverty, war and famine, climate change, climate in general, weather, national disasters, tsunamis, hurricanes, emergence and reemergence of infectious disease, intent to harm. Biowarfare has been used for a long time. People used to take people who died of bubonic plague back in the 1300s and catapult the dead bodies over into the castle of the enemy. It's been going on a long time. Okay, four major groups: newly emerging diseases such as hantavirus, Ebola, AIDS. It doesn't seem that new, but it is new. COVID-19, reemerging, tuberculosis and malaria. New manifestations, such as you may have had a disease that used to just cause one disease, and now it causes genital, respiratory, or cardiac disease. And then a known agent in one area that is spread. West Nile virus was unheard of in this country, but it made it over here. We are living in the biggest pandemic in 100 years. In World War I, the pandemic of the Spanish flu, which probably did not start in Spain, killed more people than the war killed. It was a terrible pandemic. They didn't know what caused it. It was just, they figured it was germs. They knew it was contagious. Everyone wore masks, but millions died. Millions of people have died of COVID-19 and gotten sick of COVID-19. Now, there is a vaccine available. Originally, we just had 2 vaccines. You take one, and then 3 to 4 weeks later, depending on which brand you get, you take the second one. There are some variants. The Delta variant is causing some breakthrough infections, but they're not making people that sick. Now, other reasons people aren't getting vaccinated is that they're afraid of the mRNA virus. mRNA vaccine. It's very safe. It's not going to even live in your body more than just a few hours. It only lives under refrigeration for 12 hours. It has to be frozen very deeply. This is a messenger RNA. And what it does is it does invade some lymphocytes and make them produce antibody. And then those lymphocytes will be primed, where if you're exposed to the actual COVID, then it will be ready and you will be resistant to COVID. But people are afraid, well, this is going to get in my genome. No, RNA is not going to change your genome. Your genome is made of DNA, and RNA can't get in there and change it. Not going to happen. It'll cause cancer. Why? There's no evidence. It's gone in a few hours, probably 6 hours. It's all gone. So it has to act fast. Fortunately, our immune systems do act fast. But there's no reason to be afraid of taking it. I had someone say it was against their religion to take it. Well, I feel like that, if I was going to talk about a religion, I would say this should be considered a gift from God, not a curse. They're not branding you with, 666. I know a young man who is deeply religious. I don't know where he's coming up with this, but he won't get it because he thinks that it's immoral to get it. Okay, it was named after, the virus was named COVID-19, coronavirus 19, because it was discovered in 2019, towards the end, in Wuhan City, Hubei province, China. And it was very much kept under wraps. No one knew about it. Even in 2019, the Chinese government knew this virus existed. They didn't know the magnitude, I would think, that it would get to. But towards the about the middle of January, there was a piano contest, an international piano contest, very famous, $50,000 first prize. And some of the most talented young artists from all around the world came to to compete in this contest and try to win the $50,000, plus the prestige that would be involved in winning it. And so they're all planning on leaving. They all go to Wuhan City, to the airport, because that's the way you leave China. And they were to leave on the 21st. Well, for some reason they couldn't catch their planes. And then several of them caught planes, and finally the last group of them on the 22nd of January were able to catch a plane to Moscow. And then from Moscow, they caught planes to the different places they were supposed to go. Well, one of these young pianists flew to New York City. Well, he flew there so quickly he didn't have a ticket to Atlanta, so he had a hard time getting one. He sat in that airport for 24 hours and, breathing. Then he flew to Atlanta and caught a groom bus to Columbus, Georgia, where he goes to college. And he and all his friends got together and had a big party. We're back, yay, so much fun, glad you're home. And a few weeks later, within 2 weeks, all his friends got really sick. Fevers, headache. None of them had sense of taste or smell, so most of them went to their doctors. They tested them for flu, for strep. They were negative. They said, well, you got bronchitis. That's got to be it. And they gave them antibiotics and steroids. Well, these were all young people. Every one of them lived, and they all did fine, thank goodness. We never heard of any horrible virus from Wuhan, and they had neither. Well, anyway, we know the rest of the story. It spread not just from that one group of piano students. Some of them went to New York and then to probably Iowa and Seattle and so on, some to Georgia. But there were other people who also brought it in. It got on cruise ships. It got on airplanes. It got everywhere. Okay, this is a timeline in new cases reported. Now, it doesn't say when it started, but May 24th, you see just a few. These are 5,000 new cases a day. So that's still significant when you get here in August. October 21st had a huge spike in Georgia, 15,000 new cases, and then it seemed to steady off. January, it was terrible. We're getting over 10,000 new cases a day, and then it went down, 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 down. Hurrah! We're over it. We're through. Now look what's happening. I read in the paper that Talbot County schools are not holding classes this week and next because 11 of their students tested positive for COVID. Well, when you think they have less than 400 students in the entire system, that's a lot of kids. Upson County schools on Monday, 20 tested positive, and I have this from a good source that I'm not going to reveal because I probably wasn't supposed to be told this, but 20 students tested positive. I don't know how many are testing positive now, but you wonder about the schools, whether they're going to have mask mandates or close or what they're going to do. But it's a problem, and people object to putting masks on 7-year-olds. 7-year-olds fine, but I heard a radio commentator saying they're saying ages 2 and up. Can you imagine you put a mask on a 2-year-old and put them in daycare, how long they're going to have that mask on? I think the only way the 7-year-old is going to wear it if you have their superhero on the mask, which I think superhero masks will be something good to sell. But the masks do help. If you have an N95 mask, they help a lot. Cloth masks, I have this current argument with a family member that says they do absolutely nothing. But they keep glops of sneeze out of your face, and they keep you from having glops of sneeze in other people's faces. Yes, these are airborne. They do get into the air, aerosolize, but still, even a cloth mask has got to help some. And just vaccination. Probably in the next few months, they're going to start having a booster vaccine for certain age groups. Okay, we're just going to go through a few little slides on classification of newly emerging pathogens in general. Group 1, these are things that were in the past 2 decades. COVID, certainly. Helicobacter as a cause of stomach ulcers. Has it been here more than 2 decades? Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but it wasn't discovered. Reemerging, group 2, tuberculosis, and this is because of crowded conditions and financial situations. Personally, when I moved out at 17, and I would so love, I wish my parents were still alive. I would so love to spend a week with them. But when I was 17 and I moved out to campus, and then I tried to stay home one summer, it was a nightmare. Well, brush your teeth, dear. It's time for bed. It's 9:30. No, you can't go out. You've been away from home. And so a lot of people don't like to live unless it's economically important. Now, if you've got kids, it's awfully nice to have a grandmother willing to take care of them. So that's a case where, a lot of people are doing that, but that's for financial reasons. If we were all multimillionaires, we probably wouldn't need that, but it's not probably going to happen. Group 3, agents that have bioterrorism potential, anthrax, and there is debate over COVID-19. Why was it in Wuhan? There is a biosecurity level 4 lab in Wuhan, right in the epicenter of the infection. So they're saying, well, it came from eating bats because there's a wet market there, but they weren't selling bats there. And it's still an argument. Some people think it escaped where people infected themselves working in that lab and then left. And then some people think it's a bioterrorism thing, but I mean, it would be infecting your own people would be kind of really bad. But where it came from, you just have to guess, just like I have to guess. But we know Wuhan is where it came from. Global concerns, of course, microbes are transmitted across borders. And look at borders right now. Afghanistan, I mean, everybody's leaving because they've been taken over by terrorists. International Emerging Infectious Disease Program is part of the CDC's Global Disease Detection Program, and it's aimed at controlling disease outbreaks and endemic diseases in the U.S. and abroad. And you have to have diplomatic and economic concerns, and then security. These labs have got to have security. And when we brought those Ebola people here to save their lives, that first doctor that was brought in to Emory to save his life, believe me, they had a lot of security on that building, because there could have been some mentally unstable person go in there and get infected intentionally and then go running around and infect people. Well, obviously that didn't happen. They had fantastic security and no one died. And in fact, by saving that man's life, he saved many, many lives by donating serum, and his serum saved a lot of lives. Addressing and preventing diseases, notifiable diseases, nationally notifiable diseases. If you have a disease, there's a list of diseases that are notifiable, and COVID is one of them. Syphilis, gonorrhea, they are reported to the public health system, and I don't know who specifically does it, but someone in the doctor's office who tests it positive, or the health department, they put it in their system, and then they put it into the CDC system. And so that there's numbers that we can count and monitor and know who needs help for what. And then constant surveillance for new diseases and investigation into new diseases. And I think that is all we're going to say now. I think you have already had the lesson on emerging diseases because we're living it. We're all wearing masks again, and we may all be teleworking again, except for healthcare people can't telework because you've got to have your hands there. But you may be wearing N95s and getting vaccinated both. I had to go to the doctor one day recently just for a routine thing and routine checkup, and she's vaccinated and was wearing an N95 mask. So that's their new protocol. Okay, that's all. Thank you.